Hello gamers, today we are playing South Scrimshaw. So, I've seen a little bit of this game and it looks fun. It's like a documentary about this little whale. And yeah, let's just get into it. Start. Like text, look like spacebar advance when you see this icon. Oh, okay. Cool. South Scrimshaw is a linear read, but there are information tangents to explore. Text of different color can be clicked to learn more about a subject. While there are known egg-laying mammals, none of them are whales. In recent years, the sea bunny is the most defined by I don't know how to pronounce that, cartoons. Oh, interesting. Sorry. This is a work of fiction. Names, characters, business, places, events, and most of the science are either products of author's imagination or used in a fictitious manner. Any resemblance to an actual person's living or dead or actual events is purely coincidental. Thank you. Alright. Oh. General audience, plus 12. That's good for me, I'm 13. Corporation for Earth Media.
The Corporation for Earth Media is proud to present this educational program.
Which is?
Produced in conjunction with the frontier scientists, engineers, and artists of the Kronos 7 expedition.
Interesting.
South Scrimshaw is made possible through the support of viewers like you.
Nice.
Thank you.
Okay. What are those? Oh, Chapter 1. Birth.
Hot sunlight shines through the veined membrane of an aquatic egg. It was once carried in deeper, cooler waters of a more northern latitude. Now it bobs freely in a subtropical shallow.
Alright. Look at this guy.
The consciousness dawning inside is prodded alert in discomfort. It is a male whale calf, stirring with a newfound awareness of body. This pod has held him for 17 months, nurtured his development from a single fertilized cell. Now it can no longer support his life. The inflow of nutrients and oxygenated blood has ceased. A once comfortable cradle now pinches at his enlarged form. Pushed onto his own faculty, a suffocating urge to thrash wells up inside him. Yet he hesitates.
Interesting.
A song booms from the world outside.
That's pretty loud.
The powerful low frequency vibrates through his whole body. With the certainty of deep imprinting, the calf knows who is calling. It is his mother. She is on the other side. He must join her. The shell containing him is now only a brittle husk, swollen with waste material and straining at the seams. Clumsy first movements form the start of the calf's motor awareness. The egg is evolved to rupture open along a central seam. A few thin cartilage bands are all that retain him. One more forceful effort and he will escape.
Wow. This is so cool. Corporation for Earth Media presents a Studio Mongoose production. South Scrimshaw.
Technically speaking, the whale didn't hatch from an egg. Egg is something of a misnomer. While there are known egg-laying mammals, none of them are whales.
Let's take a look at this.
There are 4 extant species of egg-laying mammal. They are
Platypus.
the platypus, the echidna,
Echidna. Okay? Look at this guy.
the snorb,
Snorb? This guy's fictional. He doesn't exist. Though he looks like a pig.
And the ribbon snore.
Oh yes, the ribbon snarl. This weird thing. Yeah. Alright. I'm like a huge animal nerd, so I really like stuff.
This whale species has a placental connection to the mother while developing.
Interesting. Fish.
Birthing shell is the term currently favored in scientific journals when discussing this style of external womb.
Pretty sure no animals actually have this.
The outer cartilage folds backwards, shrinking the space inside and expelling the contents outwards, creating pressure against the inner membrane until it finally pops.
Look at our guy.
The calf spills out into the open ocean. The world is a rush of sensory stimulation. The newborn is momentarily stunned limp. He comes to amid a dizzying flurry of life. Plants and protists tangle and snag his every movement. Small scavengers eagerly devour the cloud of waste. Plants unfurl and retract in almost animalistic locomotion. Foliage clings to the calf from above. He swims deeper to escape.
I should mention, this is less of a game, but more of like experience. You just have to click through all the texts and stuff.
His mother's song reassures him once again, but she is still nowhere in sight. Sponges, wharf biters, crustaceans and corals dangle from the plants like ornaments.
Why is this highlighted?
Plant is not a misnomer. These are true plants. As with so
they
much
look like
else in
them.
biology, the origin of plants can be traced back to the water. Albeit those early ancestors were far less complex than what we see today. As will be explained later, marine environments impose steep challenges on plants. It was once upon land freed from the burdens of an aquatic life that plants could more readily diversify and form.
Interesting. I don't know a lot about plants.
And it was also after that great proliferation of flowering species that some plants found it more favourable by the water and eventually returned to the seas. They are, in that sense, like whales.
Yeah, just not animals. Wharf biters. I know what a sponge is. Crustaceans and corals. Yeah, but what's a wharf biter? I don't know what that is.
Something solid grabs from below. His descent is halted. He's being lifted back towards the surface.
Interesting.
The calf breaches, filling his lungs with their first breath of air.
Yeah. Got some air.
This is the breeding ground of his species. At the year's peak, this wide expanse fills with whales.
Yes, very full of whales right here.
But today our calf finds the surface empty. Except for a very odd clump of plants. The calf does not know what to make of it.
I wouldn't either.
Equally disturbed and compelled, he stares transfixed.
Interesting.
Plants continue to tickle his body just below the water. A resident water bug examines him with equal skepticism.
Look at that. This is the water bug, I'm guessing. Is that a bird? It's like a bird.
Sudden movement atop the leafy mass catches his eye.
Yeah, why is my voice cracking? Bird in a crayfish-looking thing.
It's all too frightening for the little one. He retreats back under the surface. His overpowering instinct is to nurse, but he cannot. His exhaustion mounts and fear seizes him. He is lost. And as if sensing his weakness, tendrils begin to grasp at him. A vine lassos his fluke. There is no escape. In a final burst of strength, the calf fights, thrashing, tearing, and uprooting his attackers. A scent of blood enters the water.
Blood from
His mother
plants.
cries a pained song to soothe him. The calf is hit with the sudden realization.
What, the plant is his mother?
The strange plants are not taking him away from his mother.
Yeah, I
The
can see
strange
the eye
plant
right
clod
here.
is his mother.
That's the eye, and this is like part of the jaw. This is the fin, and back here I'm guessing the tail somewhere there. The Brillo whale. Pistrixiana, something. I don't know this scientific name here, but Brillo whale. Yeah, this is the species. So interesting. Chapter 2. Anatomy.
What evidence remained of this year's Brillo breeding season has long since been swept away.
Look at that thing.
This sandbar has returned to its normal, pristine state. Save for one unusual pile of rocks.
Interesting.
This is a stone dog.
Ooh.
Somewhat like a hermit crab, this animal lives in a portable shelter of foreign material. It grasps together a shell of scavenged of debris with its long limbs and secretes an adhesive mucus to hold it fast.
These look like fins. They look too fragile to pull rocks, but I'm guessing they're actually really strong. I don't understand.
Stone dogs mostly rely on ambushing prey from a camouflaged position.
Interesting.
Right now, this stone dog here is not the hunter, but the hunted.
I'll imagine.
It is a woefully obvious attempt to hide, as the predator stalking it possesses one of the sharpest minds in the ocean.
Bro,
A
you
quick
just
check if the
exposed
coast is
yourself.
clear.
You just expose yourself, Mr. Stone Dog.
It isn't.
Ah, look at that. It's the Brillo whale again.
Our whale calf wants to play, not eat. But from the
See,
stone
why?
dog's perspective, there's little difference. Since hatching, our calf has been a healthy and energetic specimen. Despite his late birth, no complications are detectable. If anything, his cognitive ability is showing swift advancement.
Good for the whale.
He is very fond of holding his fluke above the water surface.
The whale tail is called a fluke. Or is it just for this species? I'm guessing it's for all whales. I didn't know that.
Scattered showers are currently moving through the area. The calf has been emerging frequently for visual inspection since the rain began.
Interesting.
He seems very interested in the weather above. A long call reminds him not to stray too far. Brillos have surprisingly keen vision above the water. The calf is quickly able to spot his mother. This is the farthest distance he has travelled from her. It is more than twice that of yesterday. Today was quite an adventure. Now, reminded of his mother, all this bravery seems to evaporate. He is suddenly anxious to be at her side. He will bring her any interesting objects discovered while exploring.
There's the stone dog.
And boot it at her face.
A little energetic child and a mother that looks very depressed and tired. Very realistic.
His mother is trying to rest off another bout of nausea, This play is a bit much.
Look at this guy.
But these discomforts are trivial to the bond between mother and child. Our neural interface even shows a measurable relief in her symptoms during these interactions.
That's nice.
The calf's carefree play is training for future hunts and the essential skills of survival. But it will be some time before he has to worry about earning meals on his own. His mother's long, prehensile udders reach him through the thorny bramble. The milk he nurses on is thick as yogurt.
Why would you mention that? Can you just, say he's
Calves
nursing?
subsist on this fat-rich diet for 2 years, building up an insulating layer of blubber
Blubber's
and the bands of spongy tissue for other organisms to burrow into.
Spongy tissue. Interesting.
Here we arrive at what truly makes a Brillo whale such a remarkable specimen for study. Symbiosis of unrivaled complexity and variety. This female was initially selected for study due to her exquisitely beautiful exterior. The mammal is almost totally concealed within the undulating botanical mass. In cross-section, the distinction between whale and passenger is more visible.
Alright. Let's see what this game brings us. Here we go. Whale.
Unlike the stone dog shown earlier, this is not simply an external attachment of foreign material.
So I've seen something like a little bit of this game. We got some things going on here. The game will explain later, but I know what this is. It's kind of sad. Anyway, this is interesting.
The Brillo whale has an intimate connection to thousands of other living creatures. The whale chooses from among a variety of partner species
Dormies
and offers real estate within designated regions of its body.
This is so cool. It's taking symbiosis to a very huge level.
An inner membrane draws the line between the welcome cohabitation space and the whale's vitals.
If that wasn't there, that the roots would go through the brain here. That'd be very bad.
This unusual arrangement raises several questions, the first of which we will address. What is the benefit of living on a whale?
Pretty sure there's several benefits.
To help us illustrate the principle, we will be assisted by a sea bunny, or sea bun, to use its more common nickname.
Let's see what information we got here.
The South Scrimshaw team has received very explicit direction from our producers, and we are to unequivocally clarify to viewers that the sea bun is not a real animal.
I mean, it doesn't look very real.
The sea bun owes its creation to the original landing party of Kronos 5. Though the specifics are lost, the most convincing story is that it was something misheard over a shoddy radio connection. As those early years recede into contemporary legend, it is important to remember that the tales of hardship told by the first landing party are not exaggerated. The pioneers were indeed isolated for 11 solar cycles, and it was not until the conclusion of the hostilities on Earth that the current biannual delivery schedule could be planned. The uncharted planet was a land of mysterious fauna and unknown environmental hazards. It was a time where technology seemed to suffer inexplicable malfunctions, while repair efforts were always undermined by a constant lack of materials, tools, and manpower.
This is just a fish with bunny ears. This weird thing, that's a small doodle, and sea bun mermaid.
The myth of the sea bun serves as caricature for the force of chaos, always at work when one's back is turned.
So this thing is similar to a chupacabra, where some people think it's real even though it's not for some reason. Well, they believe it's real for some reason even though it's not.
Sea bunnies was a sort of shorthand for, I don't know what's wrong, it could be anything, including a cryptid.
Yeah, a cryptid. like Chupacabra and Bigfoot.
Among our seniors who were present at the time, one likened the expression to "here be dragons" on medieval maps. Another drew a parallel with Murphy's Law. Somewhere along the line, either as intentional jokes or honest misunderstanding of colourful communiques, word of sea bunnies repeatedly escaped the planet in a way interpreted as fact by those off-world. Compounding this misinformation was a popular hazing ritual where new arrivals were assigned to catch a sea bun for research, usually being given a butterfly net and sent somewhere isolated and moderately dangerous.
Ooh.
A unique culture planetside encouraged the escalation of this practice, until a few near disasters brought a legislated end to the budding tradition.
Alright, let's read this. I know you guys already understand the gravity of this situation, and I know there isn't malice behind these sorts of pranks, so we will skip the part where I scold you like children. But understand that I'm mostly planet side. The brass isn't... Wait, I'm mostly planet side, the brass isn't. Okay, they aren't in a position to understand how some FNG got sent on a little wild goose chase and swept away by the tide. We are all so lucky that fishing boat was there to pick them up out of the drink. This case is getting close without any disciplinary sections. It helps that the kid is being a sport about it. Regardless, I need everyone at your outpost to consider themselves on probation. I gave some personal assurances to secure this outcome, so my neck is on the line too. Send my regards to someone was saying the other day how we haven't seen you two for a while. Let's go get some horseshoes in before the weather cools. Regards, someone. Alright.
Regular infrastructure improvements have also blunted the disgruntled sarcasm towards occasional hardship. In recent years, the sea bunny is most defined by Will Voynich's cartoons.
Oh, we can click this.
Kids Wilderness is a monthly publication created and edited by Will Voynich, written and illustrated by Voynich and various contributors. Using friendly illustrations, it focuses on natural science, camping, and health and wellness. It joins the official Sunday newspaper as one of the planet's only 2 print publications.
Only 2? Interesting.
Voynich was originally a cartographer and among those first to land with Kronos 5. Children's literature only became a guiding passion after he discovered himself a soon-to-be father, and realised how very little would be available for the new generation by way of age-appropriate entertainment and education. On off hours at the Cartographic Survey Computer Lab, using optical scanners and image editing software designed for map-making, Voynich painstakingly constructed his first works. 5 volumes containing every fable he could remember from his own childhood. While he faithfully retells many of these timeless classics, Voynich's recall is often hazy.
Is this referring to the fox and the grapes fable? I don't know a lot about it.
Several of the stories are so misremembered, they are more original work than adaptations.
My memory sucks too.
For example, The Elephant and the Mouse retains nothing from the Aesop tale besides the titular animals. Voynich's version has the two discussing the different sorts of dreams they have while sleeping.
Isn't the elephant and mouse fable like about how the elephant is scared of this thing for some reason?
Voynich's first intentional works of fiction would be penned for Kids Wilderness. The Adventures of Seabun and Monaco.
Seabun in Monaco number 4. Seabun eats the telecommunication network. Okay.
The accessible charm of Seabun and Monaco found an immediate and enthusiastic audience. Currently playing are musical arrangements from the puppet show adaptation, which has been touring schoolhouses. The songs were composed and performed by Nico Kuprin. The formula of each adventure largely follows the same beats. Seabun, an ocean sprite with impish curiosity and an endless appetite for inedible material, happens upon some unknown piece of infrastructure and decides to devour it.
Bro's gonna eat this entire pipe thing.
Meanwhile, Monaco, a nervous eel sidekick who always follows Seabun, watches on in comically exaggerated terror while imagining the most nightmarish possible outcomes.
So if he eats this thing, everything's gonna explode. Interesting.
These predictions of doom never come to pass.
No, duh, this guy's just overdramatic and paranoid.
But Seabun's actions do cause significant damage, forcing construction crews to deploy for repairs. Seabun, now realizing his error, uses his supernatural strength to help workers in various ways and atones for his destructive acts. Everything is then rebuilt stronger than before.
Does Seabun eat it again or something?
The story formula seeks to inform young readers about vital infrastructure, where it is found, what happens if it breaks, and the sort of specialized work that maintenance requires.
So this is the basic story that happens over and over again? Interesting.
It also seeks to make the harsh edges of a frontier life less frightening and unknown to young readers. Each story ends with the sleepy Seabun returning to his burrow with a souvenir where he slumbers peacefully. That is, until he gets hungry again.
And then the cycle repeats.
Given how entrenched the character has become in the popular consciousness here, we feel it appropriate that the Seabun help guide our exploration of these oceans.
Alright, now we're back to this.
While each species has its own unique adaptation to this niche lifestyle, we can create several broad categories of benefits such evolution aims to harness.
Okay.
Moving through water takes energy. It is far easier to travel great distance when someone else is doing the swimming.
Just adjust my mic here. Alright.
Simply hitching a ride can be greatly beneficial. For example, one species of crab only lives on Brillo whales every other generation and uses whale transportation to greatly expand its range.
Interesting.
Unless one is the apex predator, the threat of being eaten is an ever-present reality. If one lives as a potential meal, it is very important to be the least desirable, most difficult of meals.
So you hitch on a whale to be your personal bodyguard.
Finding alliance with a giant beast and living under its protection creates a very effective deterrence.
This is very smart. We're only like a little bit into the game. There's already a ton of world building that I didn't know was in this game, which is really cool.
It's always still possible to be eaten, but hunters now risk facing off with a leviathan.
Yep, you don't want to mess with this guy.
Some partnerships are more proactive. Certain shark, skates, rays and scarps have formed hunting partnership with the Brillos.
Interesting.
They help find and catch quarry, then share in the feast. Pack hunting allows the Brillo to take down larger and different sorts of prey. The blood or waste of Brillo whales can also provide a source of nourishment. This not offered freely. Obviously, a Brillo whale cannot stand to be eaten alive.
Like everyone and everything. People don't like being eaten alive by mosquitoes.
An Earth parallel is an oxpecker bird on a rhinoceros. The bird may drink a marginal amount of blood while it cleans off ticks. It's a fair trade for the rhinoceros, as the tick is the far greater threat.
Yeah, tick is the parasite and the bird is symbiosis.
So too, will a Brillo whale expend blood in a beneficial relationship.
Which would be what?
In several instances, living on a Brillo has evolved into part of an organism's life cycle, and the specific conditions regulated in a Brillo's body are required for a new generation.
So some animals just evolved to always be with Brillo whales. That's interesting.
In some cases, this goes even further. With the biology of the two species becoming so enmeshed, it is unclear where one ends and the other begins. But these instances are rare. Our research team is very interested if these extreme cases represent a functioning system, or the pathological eventuality to such complicated arrangements. All of these riders taking in small amounts adds up to a great expense for the host. This prompts the obvious next question. What does the whale stand to benefit from this arrangement? This is more complicated to respond to. There seems to be as many answers as there are Brillo whales, as there is spectacular variety among Brillos.
I wonder, like, how many, like, various combinations there would be of Brillo whales. But, though, it'd probably be, like, about millions, since you can just, symbiosis with a bunch of animals and plants.
For now, let us approach the answer with specific examples from this mother.
So, since this mother has plants, I'm guessing something like photosynthesis. So it doesn't have to eat.
The most prominent feature along her body is the wide variety of photosynthesizing organisms.
Knew it.
The whale is, of course, not an autotroph producing her own energy from sunlight.
But the plants are.
But the specialized sea flora pays rent by sharing some of their sugars into her blood. When light is low, roots ferment, and alcohol is also created as a byproduct. Certain plants near her head also act as fishing lures, drawing food to her maw. While she may occasionally swim deeper, a partially plant-subsidized life has locked her within the photic zone, the upper aquatic layer where enough sunlight can sustain the leaves.
I mean, I guess it's a fair choice, staying on the surface so that the plants can photosynthesize.
Adult Brillo behavior and biology is often dramatically influenced by their symbiotic arrangement. Here we see a blood trilobite.
Blood trilobite.
This is not an invited guest.
Well, guessing from the name, it's a parasite.
A long, needle-like proboscis pushes down and taps a vein. Drinking in great volume and offering nothing in return, it is a true parasite.
Alright.
This is a job for the vellum worm. Vellum worms fill their stomachs by grooming Brillos of unwanted visitors. It is currently hypothesized that vellum worms distinguish the welcome from the attackers through smell and taste. Parasites have all been found to have elevated amounts of a bile-like Brillo waste inside them.
Interesting.
This mother Brillo also has to worry about creatures browsing her lovely plants.
Fish.
Herbivorous fish attempt frequent raids on the leafy goods. This one is alone and quite oblivious.
This dumb little fish, thinking it just got the meal of its life, a free buffet.
The vellum worm packs a powerful punch for larger animals. A neurotoxin-filled barb is shot into the fish's heart. It can only manage a faint muscle spasm before the venom completes its work.
Rip fish, honestly.
The Brillo whale's strategy is called a symbiotic garden. It is an intentionally cultivated arrangement and a precarious balance of mutual reliance. When successfully maintained, the host becomes a morass of life. It is usually defended from attack. It can sometimes acquire energy in novel ways, and occasionally it is able to invade new niche ecosystems.
I wonder if eventually in the future on our planet there will be an animal eventually who can take symbiosis to at least like close to this extreme, but that's highly unlikely. I'm pretty sure there's also like a sea slug somewhere that also has plants on it that help it photosynthesize. Don't remember what it's called though.
The universal downside experienced by all Brillos is that more complexity creates more points for failure. An adult Brillo's life is dominated by the struggle to groom a semblance of order into increasingly overgrown flanks. To a simple calf, these adult problems have yet to enter his mind.
Like real kids, they don't understand taxes and bills yet.
Today he has found his mother's leaves serve as fun streamers to play with. She finally scolds him. She is too unwell to tolerate any more roughhousing. He doesn't quite understand, but he has other diversions. Primarily drinking more of her milk. Given the complexity of Brillo anatomy, even small health problems can swiftly spiral out of control. This female experienced complications while giving birth. There is the potential for the situation to worsen. A thorned branch has become ingrown, puncturing through both the layer of protective outer muscle and the cuticle barrier.
I wonder how this happened, like how the branch got through the protective layer and then got into like the intestines here.
This had begun prior to calving, but her contractions to extend the womb also caused the plant shard to stab deeper. The spikes are now in contact with her intestines. Fortunately, there is no puncture yet. The site is inflamed and white blood cells flood the area. The immune system unmistakably identifies this as an injury.
I mean, it looks like an injury.
We can witness her stiff reluctance to move and read a jolt in brain activity when she's jostled. It must be greatly painful.
This is really sad for this to happen to this whale. Be in pain for like forever.
The greatest danger right now is a tear of the intestines, which would certainly be fatal. There is reason to hope. Our scans also reveal that she has recovered from a similar injury in the past. Perhaps Brillos regularly endure such ghastly wounds.
They regularly do this or endure this?
Perhaps it was the safety of the Brillo herd which afforded her enough time to convalesce. Certainly her odds of survival will be boosted greatly if she is able to make the long swim back. For now, she is still well enough to care for her newborn, though doing so must be exhausting.
Like real parents. This guy.
Judging by several physical indicators, this is most likely her first calf. Those Brillos who manage their gardens well can be extremely long-lived. Females can give birth as many as 8 times. If the calf survives, one day he too might also cast his genes forward, his own minute fingerprint on the future's shape. Regardless of whatever metric of success we observers of an outside species might apply, his life will be led by the means it was forged in the crucible of natural selection. But, for now, a rare moment of shelter.
Chapter 3. We have Departing. We have a map.
This is a simplified map of the local ocean topography. The deep blue represents a fault line, the planetary scar where 2 tectonic plates meet. As with Earth, this land is a moving crust atop a globe of molten metal. The planet-shaping force of subduction pushed ground up above the sea, creating what is now named the Chartreuse Archipelago. The island chain runs for about 870 kilometers, drawing a ragged line away from the continent.
Hey, look at that. South
These
Scrimshaw.
names were given by an early survey team assessing the grounds for a harbor or research outpost. The body of water created between the Scrimshaw Islands is known as the Thalo Bay.
Is this where the whales have their breeding area or something?
The large inlet is exactly what a Brillo whale breeding ground requires.
What's this?
Regarding Brillo calving, the most important feature of the bay is the chemical composition and concentration of fungal spores.
Interesting.
For now, we will limit our discussion to the choreography of the breeding ground. 3 separate herds converged this year to give birth simultaneously. The dots estimate their prior positions. Not all Brillos make this trek every year, but many more whales assist besides parents. Pregnant whales move into the centre, where they maintain as much distance from one another as possible. Perhaps due to the unpredictable anatomy of their fellow Brillos, or a vulnerability in the skin of the newborns, Calves are kept segregated from all others for the first months of their life. The remaining herd forms a blockade at the mouth of the bay while the pregnant whales deliver. As weeks pass, hunger and distraction start to erode focus on this task. The amount of time that the herd can wait is finite. When the time comes, all leave together at once, moving with the safety of numbers. Their destination will be one of several coral reefs. Those unable to move on time must be abandoned.
That's sad.
The healthy cannot hazard everyone's odds of survival for the sake of a few infirm. Our mother, wounded as she is one of several this year who befell this fate.
That's sad. Being left behind.
Outside of that season, the whales live elsewhere. Usually they are found at coral reefs and areas more productive with food. Brillos require a very high-calorie diet.
Yeah, that makes sense, since coral reefs are like home for several animals, they would need a lot of food in order to stay alive themselves as well as support their symbiotic partner.
We now find our whales here, at the border to the Great Vathis Ocean.
Interesting.
It is a bright day in early autumn. An unseasonable cold front chills the air. Below the surface, we find our mother bracing for the journey. Judging by her mobility, her health has much improved. The delay is likely not related to her recovering wounds. The distance between the Phthalo Bay and the southern reef is inhabited by many large predators. Many Brillo calves are taken in these waters.
Must be very dangerous due to the predators and being alone.
Her loud songs are searching for another Brillo's response. She has been making these calls since before dawn. She does not want to make this journey alone.
Well, yeah, that'd be very dangerous because of all the predators and stuff. There's our whale guy.
The calf returns with a fresh lungful of oxygen. And quickly retreats back to the bramble under his mother. For once, he does not need to be told to stay close. Undoubtedly, he can also read the change in his mother's behavior. And the unfamiliar place ahead is deeper and colder. Faintly at first, a new sound reaches them. His mother startles. They both listen. It's another whale.
Yeah.
A Brillo whale, and it is getting nearer. Our mother booms a reply back. The calf's curious nature starts to show itself again. He has yet to meet a Brillo besides his mother. There, he spots something. A large body begins to emerge from the hazy distance. It continues to approach, but the calf still can't quite understand what he's looking at. The calf's curiosity morphs into discomfort the closer it gets. Discomfort turns into outright alarm. He pleads to his mother in distress. She rebukes him in reply as if to say, "Don't be rude to the new neighbors." One cannot blame him for his confusion. This Brillo whale's appearance was shaped to be deceptive.
So, this, I'm pretty sure, like, the real head is down here, but this, right here, this is what he's scared of. This is really cool.
is a beautiful and ghastly example of mimicry. The way the jaws gently undulate is startlingly believable. The grim exterior is the work of an important symbiotic partner.
Which is? Here. Yeah. Look at him.
The weaver lobe.
Weaver lobe.
These prodigious builders turn their colonies into terrifying scarecrows by spinning and sculpting ossamer.
What's awesome? Let's take a look.
Ossamer is a long-chain polymer found in great abundance here. It is totally novel to our researchers.
Interesting.
When soft, it is similar in texture to a neoprene diving suit. Through a curing process, it can be hardened to various levels. In its stiffest state, it resembles the chitin shell of a beetle. A second documentary team is currently compiling all of the latest discoveries.
Wait, I can click on this too. Whoa, creation birth
Building bugs.
Building bugs?
This multi-part series will focus exclusively on the insect world, which sees far more divergent evolution from Earth species than vertebrates. The title refers both to insects that build habitats and the evolutionary forces which likely constructed such insects. Until then, we hope our simple introduction to this material suffices.
Water is channeled through the layered construction, swelling and emptying various pockets, creating animal-like locomotion. Our resident weaverlobe expert insists that the beastly facade before us here should have taken many decades to complete. It also seems unlikely that it was built from scratch on the whale's back. Perhaps if weaverlobes are able to relocate such structures, an established colony was simply carried on to the Brillo's back. Such a fearsome appearance does much to ward off predators. The reversed head may also help to confuse prey.
Interesting. Alright.
We do not know why she was left behind, but this Brillo is a valuable addition to the ocean crossing.
Look at that.
She too is a mother, looking to deliver her child to safety. It seems that all Brillo calves are quite shy around new acquaintances. Our calf growls to himself. Scoldings are unlikely to budge his unwelcoming attitude, nor will the surprise of additional friends. The calf was so distracted by what was in front of him that he failed to notice what was swimming up from behind.
Look at that rock whale.
She's something like a faceless stone golem. The exterior is more bizarre than menacing.
I wonder what benefit she would get from rocks other than like armor.
It might serve as some kind of armor, but our crew is at a loss to describe it on first sight.
Yeah, it might be something armor.
Like our Brillo mother, this whale may also have some kind of internal injury. She is only able to produce short, abrupt honks instead of complex songs.
Look at that.
She is also a mother. Regardless of what benefit her exterior provides, her presence alone will help contribute to a safe crossing. Flanked by these strangers, our calf seems very disturbed. New experiences may be uncomfortable now, but they will lead him to understand the Brillo way. His mother jolts him forward with a shove of her branches. It is unlikely that more companions will show up, and there is no time left to delay. All following her lead, the 6 whales head out into the ocean to find their lost herd. The pod is now 57 kilometers from the Great Southern Reef. This is the final leg of their journey, and their path crosses over a wide abyssal trench. The parent whales set the pace at a rigorous 6 kilometers an hour. They swim in a typical defensive formation, though with only 3 adults, it is not possible to fully encircle the youths.
What's 6 kilometers in miles? I'm American, so I don't know what this means. I'll look it up later.
The trek has been arduous for our little calf, but he has endured it with admirable stoicism. Slowing down is not an option. He is able to sense this himself.
Oh, look at that.
Something large has been following the whales. It first appeared in the early afternoon and has maintained the same steady distance ever since. Hours passed and the mysterious animal failed to approach or make any concerning moves. The calf's fear of the unknown was slowly overtaken again by interest in his new Brillo companions. The stony-skinned mother whale and her calf now swim to his left flank. This calf was whining earlier, but seems to have calmed. The stony mother's outer surface has slowly morphed shape throughout the day, greatly reducing in size.
Reducing in size. That might help become more aerodynamic, but yeah, just make her more.
It is as if the exterior nodules are deflating. What mechanism triggers this change or how they shrink, we do not know. Overall, she is slightly more streamlined in form than earlier. Perhaps she can intentionally contract her shell for extra mobility. Our calf doesn't know what to make of her either. Below him swim the mimic mother whale and her calf, along with one of our semi-autonomous light drones.
What's this thing here? I wonder. Anyone else take a look at this?
Since the autonomous side of this semi-autonomous drone has chosen to enter frame and spoil the shot, this seems an appropriate moment to talk about some of the machines used in South Scrimshaw's production.
Interesting.
Almost all of our remote-operated vehicles, ROVs, are surplus from the pacification war.
There's a war.
When the self-appointed International Coalition declared Earth's intention to globally adopt the doctrine of resistance, they provoked the construction of a war drone fleet. An army of multi-purpose and single-purpose robots was fabricated in less than 5 days. Due to the brevity of the conflict, limited mostly between Earth factions, and the eventual unconditional capitulation offered, almost none of these war machines saw deployment. Today, all can agree that avoiding a protracted land invasion or an apocalyptic scenario such as kinetic bombardment was a necessity. Today, these robots represent progress and optimism instead of death and coercion. Their strike platforms decommissioned and AI reprogrammed, they are now tools of education and discovery.
So these were war machines and then turned into education machines. That's interesting. There's a war that happened.
This declassified schematic illustrates just one of the wonderful drones at our disposal.
I have 50 watt. Guess that's what? LED chips. Engine. Drivetrain. Water intake. Propeller. Fixed diffuser vanes. Steering nozzle. Reverse deflector. Material incubator. Volator. I'm definitely pronouncing that wrong. Captive directed drivers. Alright. Horsefly. Weapon platform decommissioned. Alright. Re-inflammated amulet battery unit. So it's a battery. Seawater cooling system / ballistic tank connection. Central AI control unit.
We thank the Kronos 7 leadership for their continued logistical support of our project.
Swimming upside down is the most uncomfortable spot for a Brillo, and the Mimic Mother refused to take her turn until minutes ago.
Bro, why?
Her stubbornness may not be entirely unreasonable. While upside down, her disguise as a wide-jawed monster appears to fall apart. The illusion of a toothy beast is currently broken.
I guess that's reasonable, but this is for the safety of the calves.
Our calf gets a reassuring hum from his mother. This always seems to quell his unease. He is safe within her nest of thorns. He must focus on swimming. But it's hard to ignore that ominous thing in the distance. This is a penumbra shark. It is the fastest marine animal on the planet. For the penumbra, 6 kilometers an hour is a leisurely pace. It could comfortably stalk the whales days on end.
I wanna see a more detailed sketch of the penumbra shark. I wonder how cool it would look.
An apex hunter, patient with experience, it will preserve all possible energy for an opportune strike. Very much like a sailfish, penumbra sharks have a large dorsal fin along their back. This is kept retracted until the moment of attack. With several flicks of the tail, it vanishes from sight. Panic overtakes the whales and the defensive formation immediately breaks apart. Our calf looks down. The Mimic Mother has abandoned her post.
Bro, she's selling!
Nothing stands between our calf and the open abyss below.
Oh.
The fight or flight reaction is as intense as it is instantaneous. A full threat alarm floods from the hypothalamus, shooting through every nerve and chemical pathway. Adrenaline pumps into the blood. The perception of time dilates. Details of the world suddenly stand out with vivid intensity. Even in this low light, 2 rows of white teeth are searingly clear.
This would look so terrifying in the whale's position.
The calf finds his own fins now move in slow motion too. Seawater suddenly feels solid, suspending him in place. Trapped in harm's way, he can only watch the events unfold, until a tremble runs through the thorns surrounding him. The mother's branches are held under tension and can be released with the force of a catapult. She flexes. Cords snap, and in an instant the calf is swaddled in protective barbs and makeshift spears.
She whipped out a thorn cage protector cap. That is very...
The shark senses the change and shifts the attack direction.
The Stone Mother's calf is in danger now.
To the Stone Mother's calf,
oh, no.
who is exposed and helpless.
Oh, that's not good.
Our calf momentarily loses consciousness, but the barbed vines around him act as a net. His mother whisks him away with her. As our calf comes to again, he finds an awful scent filling the water. He looks back to see what happened to his travel companion. The sight horrifies. It is the reality of predation from the perspective of the prey.
Good thing he didn't draw that, because that probably would have gotten several people who played this game demonetized.
Because of his mother, our calf is the survivor, and not the cautionary example for others to learn from.
Man, the mother lost her kid. It's all her fault right here.
Less than 20 kilometers remain until the reef and the safety of their Brillo herd. The Mimic Mother races ahead, leaving the weaker whales to their fate. The Stone Mother lags behind. Her movements are confused. She is still in a state of shock over the death of her child.
So sad. She just had a child and then it died, like, instantly because of the shark.
Our calf struggles to follow. It is much harder to swim outside of a larger whale's slipstream. And his mother is falling far behind again. He races back to be by her side. The calf has been running ahead of her sight and then returning. The back and forth seem to coax his mother a little further each time. but now her strength has failed. She cannot even lift her fins in response.
Oh no, she's gonna die.
Her old wounds were opened by the physical exertion to save her child's life.
Yeah, she's gonna die.
She will not recover. He whistles the familiar call to play. There is no more response.
This would be so traumatic for a child to deal with. The death of another kid right next to them. And they see all the gore and the death of their mother trying to protect them. It's a lot of trauma. This whale's gonna need therapy.
She has finally slipped from consciousness. She cannot remain with her calf any longer. He continues to press for a reaction. Desperation compounds the grief. At this age, calves are completely dependent on a mother's milk and protection.
Yeah, so without it, the whale would also die.
With nowhere to go, the calf remains at her side. The research team witnesses the mother's final pulses of electrical activity fade and extinguish. There is a long pause. Two researchers start a heated discussion on the ethics of intervention.
I mean, yeah, of course you want to.
But before any consensus is reached, the argument is interrupted by a low rumble over the hydrophone. The stone mother never left the area. She watches our calf from a distance.
So,
A new day begins to dawn over the coral reef. Brillo whales start to stir from slumber. Together, the stone mother and our calf have arrived safely.
oh, that's nice. The stone mother adopted the calf.
Though physically and emotionally depleted, neither has found any sleep. The calf gorges on milk, famished from the previous day's ordeal. This adoption in the wild may be extraordinary to witness happen, but acts of apparent generosity have not been an uncommon sight to anyone following this intensely social species.
So this happens commonly? Oh, dang.
The stone mother's exterior appears to now be fully deflated. We can see a more familiar shape underneath. It's the outline of a young female whale, quite small in size for an adult specimen. She has saved our calf from certain death. Perhaps our calf is helping her continue on too. The young whale finally slumbers. It is good that he takes the moment to recover while he can. He will need the rest. In the morning, he will awaken to an overwhelming new world.
Alright, now we're on chapter 4. Patterns.
The miracle of Brillos is not that other creatures can live inside the whales. This sort of arrangement is not uncommon. You, the viewing audience, have countless residents inside your own body.
Yeah, like bacteria. But let's click on this.
An adult human is composed of approximately 30 trillion cells. An estimated additional 39 trillion microbial cells, bacteria, viruses and fungi live on and in the average person's body. Medical science has long understood the importance of the microorganisms within us and the role they play in good health. Interplanetary travel has elevated this research to the forefront of medicine. Alien atmospheres are a soup of microorganisms that Earth-raised animals have never encountered before. To the globe-hopping human, the radical change of biome is first felt in the gut. Known as planetary dysbiosis, arrival sickness, or simply the drags, all off-world-born humans experience an immobilizing nausea soon after entering the new atmosphere.
Interesting.
Even with the year-long acclimation program one undergoes in low orbit, the drags cannot be eliminated. Arrival procedure for all travellers includes a period of convalescence at Mercy Star Hospital. Dysbiosis symptoms last anywhere from 14 days to 6 weeks. The worst documented cases persisted for over a year and required intensive care.
So it's kind of like how a fish, if you're moving it to a new tank, you need to alchemate it so that it can like get familiar with temperature and pH so it doesn't go through shock.
Pictured, limnologist and ranger first class Maria Ukichiro. Her 25-day recovery is documented as routine. In a message to Kronos Earth Branch cadets, RFC Ukichiro warns, "The initial headaches are too intense to get up and go to the bathroom. In the beginning, you'll mostly suffer on a bedpan. When food isn't coming up or out, you're forcing down a prescribed diet heavy in probiotics. I do mean forcing. The doctors require you to eat certain amounts every day, no matter how nauseated it makes you. Don't think that the kind nurses will let you skip meals either. Your spoon or their tube. Only thing you get to decide. The cuisine here is dominated by fermented and preserved foods. You can blame the past shortage of home refrigeration, state of the grid, whatever. Point is, when you inevitably smell yogurt or sauerkraut later, you'll feel violently ill and want to die. Every off-worlder goes through that. You'll get over it.
Dang, that's intense.
See you soon, rookies.
That's intense for a human to go through. That's not even close to what a fish has to go through.
The miracle of Brillo whales is their ability to pick and choose their occupants. Our whale will now begin this process of selection. Providing a backdrop for the next chapter is another amazing marine animal whose colourful anatomy can construct whole ecosystems. Our Earth audience will find it a familiar species. It is the reef-building coral.
Ah, coral reefs here. I mean, we knew they were going there, but yeah. Coral is very common.
A bikini fish gently picks her way along a mountainous path of calcium carbonate exoskeletons. It's her daily prowl for food, and something tasty has her attention. Plump, bite-sized greebles are entrenched in the nooks below.
Greebles?
It'll take her quite a bit of work to pry them out. As the bikini calculates the best approach of attack, her preparations are interrupted. She joins the other fish fleeing for their lives.
Oh wait.
A higher caste of the food chain steals the scene. It's a spotted barnacle claw.
What are these bumps on it? Are those like eyes or just bumps? Oh, there goes these guys.
One powerful yank extracts the entire colony hiding below.
The entire colony? Dang.
The host Brillo whale groans with dissatisfaction. This isn't a meal fit for a leviathan. They will continue browsing for something more substantial. Our whale watches the drama unfold from a safe distance, somewhat perplexed. In the 6 years since we last rejoined him, the Great Reef has not run short of new surprises.
So this is 6 years later, dang. Yes,
From near and far, one can hear the calls of unknown Brillos bounding off these cavernous walls. At least he still has someone familiar to rely on.
Oh.
His adoptive mother is usually out of sight, but never too far away. She has changed quite a great deal since we last saw her. Perhaps in response to the penumbra shark attack, she has undergone a zealous application of eye spots to her figure. While not as outwardly apparent, our young whale's body has undergone an even more radical change.
It got the layer for the symbiotic animals? Yeah, it did.
His skin layers and immune system have fully developed and are ready to host other species. This dermatological puberty is the crossroad. He must decide what sort of Brillo he will become. How does a young whale make such a crucial decision?
Looking at successful adults.
The choices are overwhelming, the combinations are infinite, and mistakes are fatal. One way to ensure future success is to replicate past success.
Oh yes.
Brillo youths find a welcoming adult and attempt to fashion themselves in their likeness. The older whale assists with offerings of seeds, eggs, larvae, and other materials needed to begin the garden. The younger whale remains close for the years after, learning new behavior from the adult. Not every option available to a young whale is desirable. This old-timer is welcoming, but our whale is visibly uncomfortable. It isn't hard to imagine why, but on the other hand, another young Brillo might happily accept this body plan. What shapes such individual preference? Realistically, there are far too many influences to chart, but from our limited data, there is one factor that stands out. We estimate that half of Brillos choose to replicate their own mothers. Our whale displays this preference towards his biological mother.
So he wants plants. That's reasonable.
These ribbon plants are the same variety she once wore. Our calf returns here every day, but it is no use. This Brillo whale is deceased. Nothing but a cleaned skeleton remains beneath the foliage. While it is interesting that the garden can partially survive on, none of it can be transferred without the living adult to help. Our whale must find comfort in the familiar scent and touch. However, time spent on what he cannot have is time wasted. Waiting too long to start a garden could bring other health complications. He will have to move on. Our whale goes on a search for another plant-based Brillo. For reasons unknown, such Brillos are conspicuously absent this season. It seems as if anything resembling his mother has migrated elsewhere. One single exception is discovered. And he is a spectacular example of aquatic foliage. The shaggy coat is as full and beautiful as the late mother's. But not all Brillos are welcoming. Day after day, he tries to draw the adult into play, and day after day receives the cold shoulder. The adult flatly refuses to acknowledge his existence.
Well, this guy's rude.
This male has tunnel vision on the single purpose of mating. Babysitting is not on the agenda. We watch an attempt to woo a female fail pitifully. She is clearly put off by his little sidekick, tugging roughly on his leaves. Days of pent-up agitation are suddenly unloaded. Our whale is chased off at the point of a skewer.
Man, this guy's so rude.
It may feel like a painful sacrifice, but a plant body is not an option. There's a dizzying amount of other choices remaining, and one of them will have to do. Another morning dawns. The nocturnal animals have returned to slumber, and the frantic energy of diurnal animals resumes. For our researchers, every day following the whale is a journey into an uncharted wilderness. Only a small fraction of the species here have been recorded. And there is so much inexplicable behavior to document.
What the heck's happening here? That's a seahorse, an octopus, shark thing, whatever that is, a squid, fish. Dang, that's a lot.
Recent discoveries have centered on the varieties of coral present. The reef itself is now understood to be a multi-layered structure.
This thing looks like a worm. And let's click on this. Fringing.
The Great Southern Reef is a fringing reef. The inhabitants can be categorized into 3 zones based on depth. The unique character of the southern reef is owed to the spire coral, which lives across all three of these zones. Spire coral can survive at the lowest depths, where it faces little competition. Once fixed to solid ground, spire coral stack atop one another, upwards towards the sunlight that will fuel more productive respiration. Shallow water corals soon find these raised platform and perch themselves upon it. This is not a cooperative relationship. The spire coral is eventually smothered and dies. Under accumulated weight, the structural integrity is lost, and the spire shatters. Collapse back down to lower depths. Living spire coral can again re-emerge, and the cycle repeats unendingly. This constant tossing and turning creates a porous and dynamic landscape, veined with small tunnels and dotted with caves. Thousands of small animals make this subterranean environment their niche.
Got some tadpoles here.
For example, saltwater tadpoles spend their early life stages hidden underground.
Wait, what is this thing? Is that like where they live?
Until they can emerge above as a fearsome predator.
Frog.
Relative to their size, that is.
Right.
Progress and knowledge march forward through tireless work, but we often share in our young whale's bewilderment. Who is this? What is on his head? What is going on? We do not know. Our whale runs away, and we simply follow. One afternoon, it seems our young whale's persistent searching has been rewarded. A loud song heralds him from the distance. A Brillo hunting party returns. Their high spirits means that all had a good kill. The group's leader is calling to our whale. Our youth remains in place but allows the adult to approach. These whales are sophisticated pack hunters. The chowper, a stupid but friendly shark, totally accepts the Brillos as their own.
I'm guessing, like, due to trauma, he's not gonna accept this.
Compared to the painful transmogrification other Brillos endure, this silky costume is minimally invasive and provides maximum returns.
Interesting. It's actually...
And it's a plant.
It's a plant. Oh. I didn't expect it to be a plant.
This successful symbiosis strategy is limited only by the pack's willingness to share it with others. An open invitation from the leader is a golden opportunity. Something isn't right. Our whale is fixated on the chowper.
Trauma.
It is a tragedy that our whale seems unable to tolerate sharks of any kind. He flees. Over the weeks, we observe our subject whale becoming increasingly distressed. It is critical he suppress unpleasant feelings and adopt a symbiosis plan. A Brillo whale cannot survive unplanted. He can perceive himself failing to integrate, of course, but the building internal agitation is not a force that will help him adapt better. Autumn draws to a close. Several new varieties of Brillo begin to arrive from colder latitudes. These are mostly hunter archetypes who can live a life less dependent on the reef's concentrated bounty. A camouflaged whale waits for prey to swim near.
I know what camouflaged is, but I'm guessing it's referring to all the octopuses on here. Octopi, whatever.
Active camouflage or adaptive camouflage refers to skin coloration that can rapidly shift to match a changing environment. These octopus have linked their tentacle nerve endings together.
Having octopus with camouflage is actually really smart. They can change like their color, their texture. It's really hard to spot them.
Allowing them to network visual information between all bodies. Colour change is omnidirectional, instant, and accurate. The swiftness and precision of these changes exceeds any Earth octopus ability.
So they can do it better? Dang.
They are not the only example of animals here possessing very advanced skin chromatophores. Researchers hope to understand why they have evolved in more sophisticated fashion than their Earth counterparts.
Let's click on this.
While this documentary is restricted to its limited mandate, we believe in good faith that the following question is unavoidable and must now be answered.
Which is?
Why would a species on another planet have an Earth counterpart? Convergent evolution was the obvious first hypothesis. This is the phenomenon where different species can evolve similar features when faced with the same evolutionary pressure.
Like dolphins and sharks. They're the same shape. Yeah, for the most part.
For example, we can find similarities in the wings of unrelated flying vertebrates. Similar problems craft similar solutions. While this obviously still holds true, it is not the answer to our question. This lizard looks like an Earth chameleon.
It does.
This whale looks like an Earth whale, because they share a recent common ancestor with Earth animals. The true answer is directed panspermia.
Let's look at this.
It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it, so Aristotle advised us. In that high-minded spirit, we can look back at Francis Crick as one of biology's fearless thinkers. He is best known for his work with James Watson, uncovering the structure of DNA more than a century ago. This earned them and Maurice Wilkins the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 1962. He was also uncomfortably acknowledged by 20th century colleagues as a proponent of directed panspermia, that a deliberate extraterrestrial origin to life on Earth should be taken into serious consideration. While Crick's hypothesis fails to match our current best understanding, his unorthodox thinking landed him closer to the truth than any of his contemporaries could have believed.
Let's look at this.
Francis, do you think we were lucky to have solved it? Or was it real brain work on our part?
Well, I guess we were certainly lucky, and of course you give the impression in your book, Jim, we didn't really do too much thinking, but we were lucky, I think, for two reasons. We were thinking about the problem at the right time, and then the two of us, by collaborating, when one of us got on the wrong track, the other one could get us out of it. But if I thought there were three chains at one stage, you were sure there were two. If you thought that the phosphates had to be in the middle, then I would be the devil's advocate and say put them on the outside. And I think this is very important in solving structures of this kind, because
Life on Earth originated on Earth. Abiogenesis took place in deep-sea hydrothermal vents approximately 3.7 billion years ago.
Why is the music getting louder?
Recent history has revealed that 3 other planets also sustain life. Aria, Gos, and Earth 2 are affectionately referred to as sister planets of Earth due to their similarities.
Okay, so this is the planet we're on currently. I don't know what this planet is, and I don't know what this planet is.
But it may be more accurate to call them Earth children. They were barren until intentionally planted from Earth's highly evolved genetic stock. Isolated across light years of space, the forces of evolution then wrought divergent results.
Okay, so basically, animals from here, they were just put out on all these planets and they evolved by themselves. Alright, now we're back to this.
This kind of strategy requires a good deal of patience. Our whale, sensing the hunter, swims wide. The camo whale politely hails him. Other Brillo whales aren't the target of his trap. Our whale replies with mistrust and leaves. Something is wrong. Our whale's once irrepressible curiosity has grown increasingly muted.
Is he depressed? I think he's depressed.
Even wonders like bioluminescence provokes no reaction. These lamplighter fish are practicing their jousting in preparation for the annual mating competition.
This is a really cool fish.
The event is soon. It's only a one-night affair, and they will all die immediately afterwards.
Oh, dang.
We think it would be quite the enriching spectacle. But the fish seem to be of no interest.
Yeah, he's definitely depressed.
Our research objectives all involve how a planted brillo changes gene expression throughout its life. An unplanted whale is no use to us. There is a fear that our biometric implants have been invested on a losing whale.
Let's click on this.
When a gene pool is too small, there is no way for a population to discard deleterious mutations. Without sexual recombination, offspring will have at least as much mutation as their parents. The errors simply accumulate. Muller's ratchet describes a process of irreversible decline, where each generation is one notch less fit than before. Can all the higher intelligence or wisdom of the universe provide salvation if one's very genetic code is winding down to destruction? The Kronos project is a late-hour rewrite of a complex genome. It is an attempt to engineer a viable escape from an extinction vortex. Humans, still a robust and healthy animal, are conscripted to provide a variety of labour, which our forebearers have grown too enfeebled and small in number to handle themselves. Of course, we do not do this work without our own motivations. The fruits of this labour could change how we understand illness and ageing. But that final objective, to fundamentally decouple our fate from natural machinations and assert the reins of technology, is still widely contested. In contrast to other human enclaves, the Constitution of Aria proudly allows this debate to take place in open forums.
But before we can discuss contingency plans, our Brillo finally begins to break bad habits. This unknown youth has snagged a lamplighter and presents it now to our whale. Perhaps he was enthused to share his catch and our whale happened to be closest.
Hey, it's friend now.
Brillo interactions can be opaque, but these two have clearly hit it off. For once, our whale does not withdraw. He is proactively engaging instead of passively responding. It's a much welcome scene, but it begs the question, what changed? What external factors could have contributed to a more outgoing posture? Did our cameras miss a life-changing event? Does this stranger seem less threatening than all the others?
Maybe. It's also a child.
It is true that our whale, having been born outside the herd, has consistently lacked peer contact his own age. Young brillos cannot transmit garden organisms between each other, so the interaction here probably feels less fraught.
It's a nautilus shell thing. Yeah.
Than it might with an adult, who could permanently dose him with life-altering symbiosis. We hypothesize that juvenile Brillo association is a necessary prior step to adult interaction. Regardless of how correct this assertion is, it successfully buys our study additional time. The two whales spend the rest of the day playing and are still chasing fish together when we leave them. Night falls, but our whale is not asleep. GPS coordinates show he's swimming somewhere. As his aberrant behavior is still under scrutiny, the team moves to investigate. A spotlight is aimed overboard. We discover more than just our whale. He is traveling with a pod of other youths. They all sing with curiosity at the sudden lights shining from above. We cut the power to avoid further disturbance. It's soon clear where the Brillos are headed. The first glimmers of action appear in the near distance.
Is this the lanternfish jousting thing they mentioned earlier?
The night of the lamplighter fish has begun.
Oh yes, it's lamplighter, not lantern.
The ocean starts to flash brilliantly as males battle for the attention of females. The weak are pierced open, spilling bioluminescence into the water. They shine with complete indifference to predators attacking. Known as predator satiation, there are simply too many to all be eaten. His belly full of glowing fish bits, our whale watches the show reach its climax. It seems like he'll be up all night with the others. Confident in his safety, we recall our camera drones to finish their scheduled recharge. By blocking wave activity, the barrier reef creates a wide lagoon behind it. The placid water stretches for several kilometers before being overtaken by a mangrove forest. Parts are so shallow that they become exposed to air at low tide. At high tide, other areas are deep enough for a troublesome young whale to get lost in. His friends weren't adventurous enough to follow him today. And for good reason, as our whale realizes once the water level starts to drop again. There's no time to play with the locals. The outgoing seawater feeds to several deep channels. Whisked through the trenches, our whale rides the rip current to safety, with no control over where it's taking him. After a lengthy ride, he is spat out far from where he began. This is the end of the Great Reef. It's exposed and dangerous territory, but our whale can't help himself from having a look around. There's a sudden realization that he's being watched. Something is stirring within the cave behind him. It's another Brillo whale.
Another one?
Our whale approaches, but there is no friendly greeting. This isolated loner is an exile from the herd. Banishment is reserved for excessive violence against fellow Brillos. Most likely it was a mating joust that escalated to fatal combat. A deteriorated mental state from years of isolation is what has made him truly dangerous. Our Brillo can understand that a noiseless approach signals an attack. He whistles another greeting. It's met with an oppressive silence. The crown of a shark's jaw attests to this whale's staggering strength. But his secret weapon lies inside the crow's nest atop his hardened armor. The Vorpix octopus wakes when it senses a kill is imminent. He serves the role of a hunting partner who swims in advance. Usually it latches over the eyes of prey and attacks with its serrated beak. But when prey is so pitifully weak, he prefers to spectate. Our whale is far from being scared. He's experiencing a whole other emotion. He knows. This was unexpected. Abandoning caution, the calf sings and plays like he's found a new friend. He goes in for a nuzzle and the harsh exterior cracks. How long has it been since the old-timer experienced any warmth of companionship? Maybe having a little apprentice killer won't be so bad. He grunts, struggling to remember a song that isn't also a threat. This isn't the scene of bloodshed that the octopus wanted. It seems he's witnessed this cycle once before, as he knows what must be done.
We've seen this before.
This animal is negligibly senescent, meaning it expresses no evidence of biological aging. It's one of the only long-lived cephalopods that has not been culled. Our researchers suspect this octopus to be at least 4 centuries old, and cephalopods who survive so long possess a devious intelligence.
The Vorpix presents our whale with a living piece of the armor plating.
What's gonna happen?
A quick feel for the soft spot.
Oh.
and the deed is done.
Dude got stabbed.
When the young whale wakes up, the implant will already have sprouted roots to hold firmly fixed in his skin. With this major milestone now documented, the mobile lab departs and will not rejoin the whale again until his adulthood. Implants will continue to transmit information about his physical development for a 20-year remote observation period.
20 years?
This also ends the documentary team's access to the whale and concludes the first phase of our project. For us, raw data is far less compelling than first-hand observation of his body being reconstructed. 20 years is a long time for impatient humans to wait. When we do meet our whale again, it is hard to guess now what we might find. All the changes he experiences over 2 decades will be witnessed in a single moment. It should be nothing short of a complete metamorphosis.
Guess that's the game. Oh. That's a lot of sounds. And that's the game. Man, I can't wait for chapter 5 to come out, since we have more of the story to go through. But that's gonna be a long time, so when that comes out, I'll play it. Well, when I find out it comes out, I'll play it. So, yeah. So, hit that like button if you like this video. Subscribe if you want, and see you later, gamers.